Today we're going to talk about the affordability of living in Holland, Michigan.
I'm Paul Boonstra.
And I'm Ashley Swansea. And we're with the Luke Bouman Real Estate Team.
If you're considering buying or selling in the West Michigan area, we would love to help you out. So let's get into it. Today we're going to talk about the affordability of living in Holland, Michigan.
Hey guys, so today in talking about the affordability of living in Holland, Michigan, we thought we would start with sharing some information in regards to home values, home pricing, specifically going to be looking at price per square foot and how that compares in the Holland area versus, other cities around us or even nationally and what that looks like for you. Price per square foot here in Holland, you can expect to pay around $203 a square foot, roughly making a 2,500 square foot property right around $500,000 for you to purchase.
Yeah, I think that's great information. So in comparison to different cities, we kind of compiled a list and you'll see them up above. But Charleston, South Carolina, you're looking at $370 a square foot. So for a typical 2,500 square foot home, you're looking at almost $1 million. So you're looking at $925,000 for that.
Yeah, I mean, you're nearly doubling what you're gonna pay here in Holland. Another city we took a closer look at was kind of an outskirts of the Chicago area, Elmhurst. Not terribly unaffordable, but they are still about 50% more than you can expect to pay here, right around $298 a square foot for your property values.
Yeah, and then we also ran some numbers more, on the West Coast. We did San Francisco, we did Laguna Beach. So San Francisco, these numbers are a little shocking, I'll be honest. It's $995 a square foot. So 2,500 square foot house, you're looking at roughly a $2.5 million house. Same house that you're gonna get in Holland for $507,000 is $2.5 million in San Francisco. And then Laguna Beach is almost $3.5 million. Same square footage, so.
Yeah, and definitely probably a little bit more of a luxury market out in those areas, but also taking into consideration, we've got our beautiful Lake Michigan here. They've got the ocean, just trying to kind of compare what those, water towns can look like for you, coastal towns.
Yeah, and we're gonna dive deeper into all that information, so.
Yep, absolutely.
Here we go. So we touched on housing already, but now we're gonna take a deeper dive into the overall affordability of the area.
Yep.
So we're roughly 10% below the nation average. Now I know that the nation in general has seen a lot of inflation and we're all seeing numbers go up, but we're still 10% below the average.
Yeah, I mean, it's no secret, everybody's feeling some type of an increase in cost of living, no matter where you're at.
Yep.
But for instance, if you wanna take a closer look at groceries for Holland, we've pulled some stats on what that can look like for a family of four, which happens to be myself, my husband, and our two kids. Holland stats, you can expect to pay roughly $8,400 a year for groceries. If you want to compare that in the state of Michigan, that's a touch below even what the state average is at $8,700 a year. But nationally, we really are about 10% below that national average in grocery costs as well. You can expect to pay anywhere from $9,300 to $9,400 a year as a national average.
And that's a big difference, for a family of four, like 10% just in groceries, it all adds up.
I appreciate having that $1,000 extra.
Definitely. So, back to that 10%. So we see that in childcare costs, we see that in healthcare costs, we see that in transportation.
Taxes.
Property taxes. So I'm originally from the Chicagoland area. And my wife and I bought our first house down there in Elmhurst, Illinois area, what we mentioned earlier, and our taxes were wild.
Yeah.
And then when we moved up here to Michigan, I was shocked at how low the taxes actually were and how much more of a house we could afford just with the affordability of the house itself, but taxes built on top of that. So our whole payment went down a decent amount and we got a decent amount more house. So I was happily surprised by that.
We love our affordability here.
Yeah.
So another factor in the affordability of living in Holland, Michigan is actually just your quality of life here. One thing that I think is really important to note and to talk about is we've been nationally recognized over the years as actually being in the top 5 lowest crime rates in the nation, which just really is the tip of the iceberg in terms of what you can expect here from your people. It's super friendly. We've definitely got an influx of people moving here to experience our more laid back and friendly way of living around here.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of what makes it fun being a realtor in this area, is when people come from out of town, it's easy for us to recommend this area. Like I moved from out of town and I absolutely love it here. So it's easy for me to be like, it's a great area, there's good people, it's affordable. Like there's really no downside when I talk to people about this area.
I think there's a reason why we're both raising our families here.
Totally.
I mean, I went away for a few years for college, but ultimately came back and settled roots down in a place that I can't imagine not calling home.
So now let's take a deeper dive into the things that make Holland so great. You know, we've talked about the quality of life, the affordability in terms of housing, but the things that really make it stand out and make it such a value. The first thing that comes to mind for me is Lake Michigan and Lake Macatawa.
Yes.
It's hard to find that, especially here in the Midwest, where you have beach access. You can get on a boat, you can, jump in the water. You just don't find that in many places.
Yeah, I actually would agree, and I find that it's actually something, as someone who was born and raised in Holland, massively took it for granted growing up. Didn't even understand the beauty that it has, how rare it is to have that. I ended up going away for college, only an hour and a half from here in the middle of the state. But I remember my first summer staying in Eastland saying, I just looked at my girlfriends one day and I was like, where's your beach? What do you guys do in the summer?
Right?
Like, where do you go? And it just didn't even hit me really until I was an adult that we really have something special here in Holland, and it was a huge driving force to come back.
And I'm from the Chicagoland area, right? And that Lake Michigan hits Chicago too, but it's a very different vibe out here. Like it's more enjoyable going to the beach and relaxing rather than you go to the Chicago beaches and I just feel like it's chaos.
Definitely leisurely around here, for sure.
No.
Yep.
So, you want to jump into the next one?
Yeah, so moving on from the beach, which is awesome, we've got a fantastic downtown area, such a perfect little A Street, hit up your coffee shops, your stores, your bakeries, all of those things. And while Holland does offer your larger box stores for necessities and all of those things, it's just really cool to be able to support a lot of local businesses, people that live in your town. You get to go in and support them, which is really awesome.
Yeah, and I like that it's year round because we have the snowmelt system on the streets here downtown 8th Street. So
super cool feature.
Middle of winter, it's dry, you can walk, you're not worried about slipping. Like I feel like a lot of other small towns or different towns, they kind of shut down.
A lot of runners love it.
Yeah, a lot of runners love it, but other towns just kind of shut down in the middle of winter, and Holland's pretty vibrant actually.
Yeah, between restaurants and stores, you can't really go wrong with coming downtown Holland.
Yeah, and then if you really wanted to get outside of Holland, we're still close to Grand Rapids. It's a little bit bigger of a city, has an airport, has more restaurants, and that's only a half-hour drive, 40 minutes.
Oh, I would say 25 to 40, depending on exactly where you're coming from. But I mean, that'll give you an option to get that big city feel compared to Holland, but it's just a really nice location.
Yeah, and then you're still only 2.5 hours. If you really want big city feel, you're only 2.5 hours from Chicago, from Detroit.
Yep.
So if you want to go to the museums in Chicago or Detroit, or you want to go to a professional sporting event.
Right, concerts, those sort of things. We still have access to all of that within a day trip very easily. So another piece that is really important when deciding on where you want to settle down, where you want to live, is healthcare and what your options potentially are and what you need to plan for and plan on.
And Holland Hospital is a local community hospital. They're nationally recognized. They get a bunch of awards. Recently they got a CMS 5-star rating. They're a level 3 trauma center, so they're not taking on the huge traumas, but if something were to happen, that's what Grand Rapids is for. Right?
Correct. Yep. And like we were just saying, the proximity to Grand Rapids, Holland still offers you know, a level 1 trauma center in Grand Rapids so that you don't have to worry about being hours and hours away if something catastrophic were to happen.
And both Corewell, Spectrum, and Holland Hospital have a bunch of ancillary areas kind of along the lakeshore, right up 31.
Totally.
There's a couple
Yep.
places. I mean, there's a hospital in Zeeland. So I think it's kind of the mag mile or what's it called in Grand Rapids?
Medical mile.
The medical mile.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm thinking mag mile for Chicago. The medical mile. But I mean, this area is very well known for their healthcare.
Yeah.
So.
It's just gonna add to, again, your quality of living. It's a safe place as far as crime rates, but also safe in terms of healthcare. You're gonna have access and not need to worry about that.
Yeah, it's great.
I love it.
We've talked about a lot of things that make Holland great, you know, in terms of the quality of life, the things that we offer, but I want to bring us back to the affordability and the value that you get here.
Yeah, definitely. And I think if we circle back to the beginning when we were talking about those 2,500 square foot homes, just comparing, you know, you're looking around $500,000 for the Holland area. But if you jump down to South Carolina, you're going to be pushing $1 million quickly. And even heading out west, that Seattle market, you're $1.5 million to get started, really.
That's shocking.
Yeah.
The jump.
It's a big number.
Yeah.
So anyways, we just appreciate you guys hanging out with us today. If you want to see more of our content, just push the subscribe button below. And we look forward to seeing you on our next one.
Take care.